All right, welcome back. We are COMP1116. That's Game Programming 3 in the fall 2025 semester at Georgian. And it's week 13, part 2 of our broadcast and recording together. And the last part, we built a health bar for the enemy. And now we're going to continue by building an overlay for the character. Right, so that's where we are right now. So how do we make an overlay for the character? Similar to what we did with the enemy. I'm just going to go back to Unreal Engine, Control 5. We're going to run overtime on this one. I thought I would get through. I would have gotten through this too. But anyways, we'll see. Hopefully we won't. If we do, I'll keep recording. That's how it goes. All right, so back in Unreal Engine, we made the enemy health bar work. We close that off. What we want to do is we want to go into HUD, right-click, and we want to make a new user interface widget blueprint. There we are. And we're going to call this thing WBP. It's going to be the main character overlay. That's what it's going to be, main character overlay, right? So that's what it's going to happen. We're going to put that in there, main character overlay. And the main character overlay, we're calling it an overlay because it's going to be on top of the world space because we're going to see it all the time, right? So again, what we need here is a canvas panel. And here it is. And then on top of that, we need a couple of additional things that we didn't have in our other thing. One of them is a progress bar. So we're going to put that in there. So let's put the progress bar in there. And this time we're going to keep it left centered. So that's what we're going to do there. The position is 166 and 109. So 166, 109. Again, they don't have to be the exact positions, but I found that these numbers helped. You know, background tint, again, it's important to do that. So background tint is going to be 0 here. So it's going to be transparent. That's important to do. We're going to use a fill image of main health. So that's where it's going to be here. So I guess under here, it's going to be main health. There it is. And then what we want to do is a progress bar. It's going to be 1. It's going to fill from left to right this time. And our fill color opacity is going to be 1, 1, 1. So that's going to be our thing that we have here. Okay. So not 0.8, Tom. 1. There we go. So it's kind of similar to what we saw before. It looks like this. Next, let's also call this health bar. Health bar. And then also make it is variable. That's important to do. Because if we don't do that, that would be very bad. Well, it says actually health progress bar. We'll do that. Health progress bar. There we go. And then what I want to do is I want to have another one, and it'll be the stamina progress bar. Let's just copy paste this one. So again, I'll copy paste. And then here's the other one. It's going to be kind of around here. And instead of this one, I'll just call this stamina progress bar. Also needs to be a variable. The location is 124, 145. So 124, 145. It's going to be kind of staggered like this, right? 340, instead of 340, it's going to be 381 by 30. So a little bit longer, 381, like this, because you can see it's matched up with these ones. The fill image isn't going to be that. It's going to be main stamina. So main stamina, this one. So it's going to be a blue image. And the rest is the same. So that's what that is. Okay. That's those two. Then what we want is a image called overlay image, also a variable. So let's add in an image. We'll call this overlay image. Okay. And then what we want to do with this in the brush is what we want to use is, oh yeah, size to content is true. We want that for sure. The location is going to be 32, 32, kind of at the top, and 100 by 40 is what we're going to use. It's fine. So that's where it's going to be. And what we want to do is we want to use the image is going to be main middle. It's kind of a weird image name. The main middle is the image that we're going to use. Main middle. Come on. Main middle. I don't know why I couldn't. Is that 2 underscores? Okay, that's why. 2 underscores. So main middle, 2 underscores. And then once we have that, that's it. So notice that it's kind of an overlay on top of this one. There's one more that we're going to add in, which is another image. And it is an overlay icon is what it's going to be called, right? So overlay icon, which is also a variable. And I'm going to explain why these are this way. So I'm going to another one of these. I'm going to call it overlay icon, which is a variable. And it's going to be, again, 4747. 47 by 47. We're going to size the content, and this one is going to be called icon empty. There's actually different ones. So I'm going to show you this. If I type in icon, there's icon empty, icon full, a full pink, icon full yellow, right? And these ones allow us to do things like show that we've taken damage or we have certain powers or whatever. It's kind of a neat thing, a neat little pack. I'm going to use this one, right? So it's kind of like, this is the icon empty, which is kind of, you can color this basically is what it does. You can replace this icon with the other ones to show different levels of power if you're going to cast spells or whatever, right? But that's not bad. So that's what it's going to look like. Compile and save. And that is our HUD. So now let's put this up on DevOps. I'm going to go here and make sure we save. And we're going to go here and we're going to say get add dot, get commit -m, and we'll say added WVP main character overlay. Yep. And once we've done this, we can close that off. We're not going to need that anymore. Well, actually, we will. But we have to do the same thing we did last time, which is we want to make a user widget, and we want to call it this. Let's do that. So just like we did before, I'm going to go into the C++ class, and I'm going to go into right-click, new C++ class, and we want to make this a user widget. There we go. This is the one. Next, and we're going to call that main character overlay, create class. So this is kind of the same process we used last time when we made the overlay for the we made the health bar for the enemy. We made the overlay for the character. Same kind of idea. The difference is that the overlay is going to be in screen space, right? And we also need to update the HUD, and we also have to have the HUD into the game mode. We're going to see that in a bit. There we go. All right, and that's nice. And now we can go into, we'll file, save all, and we'll go into C++, reload, go back into the overlay part, remove all the boilerplate comments, which we don't want. And here, again, we just want to control that. And we're going to do that by adding, let's forward declare. We know we're going to do that. So might as well forward declare inside of here. Same idea. And we're also going to, we're also going to do all of this. I'll come back to that in a second, which is in here. And that's going to be inside of the public section, of course, not anywhere else. There we go. So let's talk about this a little bit. So we have two progress bars, a health bar, progress bar, and a stamina progress bar, and they have the same name that we called them earlier. They have two little functions, set health bar percent and set stamina percent, those two things. So again, I'm going to go to the top here, and I'm just going to generate definitions for those. And that's going to be in the CPP file. And all we're going to do here is grab all this, as well as the components health bar. I'm just going to grab all this time to make it quick and put them in. Nothing changed from the last one. All this does is it sets the health percentage for both of those. Compile and save. Okay, so that's what that does. Next, what we want to do is we want to reset everything. So I'm going to go over here, File, Save All, and just going to close that off. And then back in Visual Studio, Control F5, so it'll come back up. And now that everything is rebuilt, we can attach it to the WPP overlay, main character overlay that we had, so that it's connected. We have those roots that go in from the Blueprint side to the C++ side, so we can control that for the player as well. Okay, just the same thing. We have lots more to go, though. Many miles to go before we sleep, as they say, right? So I'm an old guy. I say weird things. Okay, so now that we've got that, I'm going to go back into back into Blueprint's HUD, and then the overlay, this one. And then just like we did before, I want to go into the graph, and I want to go into the settings button, and I want to choose the main character overlay as my superclass. So compile and save. Get rid of all this stuff too, because you don't need it. And now we can close it down. So now that we have this is the first step. Step 2, right, which is because characters are a little bit more complex, because we're going to make this new HUD. We have to make our own HUD. So our own HUD class, in other words, right? So that's going to be a Blueprint class. That's a HUD. So again, going back to Unreal Engine. So here, I'm going to right click and I'm going to add in a new Blueprint class. We're going to make it a HUD. So notice that there isn't one here, but we could go down here and search for HUD. There it is. And then we're going to click Save. And we're going to make this is going to be called, this is going to be called the BP underscore main character HUD. So that's what it is. So back to this. Okay, main character HUD. And once we open it up, you'll see what it is. It's just basically this, right? And notice what we normally what we do is in the event graph, we do something like add to, we use the HUD to add the widget blueprint to the, to the viewport. We want to do this in C++. So again, right now it's using the parent HUD class. That means we have to make our own HUD class, which is the next thing we're going to do right here. So again, I'm going to go back into C++, right click, add new C++ class. And this time I'm going to go to all classes, because here you can see that, oh, there actually is right here, HUD, next. And then from there, instead of me calling it this, we're going to call it main character HUD. There it is. And create the class. So that's the next thing we're going to do. So again, we've added our overlay and we've connected our class, but now we're going to do the same thing with our HUD, right? So again, we're doing this so that way we have control again from C++ to Blueprints. I keep saying that, but I want you to know why we're doing it. And one thing is, it's a kind of a slippery slope when it comes to using C++. Once you're using C++ and you want to, kind of interact with the blueprint, then you need to add a bunch of extra classes that, the blueprints inherit from, so you can interact with them. And that's what's happening here. All right, so now that we've done that, we're going to say File, Save All, close off Unreal Engine, go back into C++, reload all, and continue working with our main HUD, right? So now you're going to see the same kind of code that we've added in before in Blueprints. We're going to just do it in C++. So this is going to show you how to do that, as opposed to doing it with Blueprints. So again, right in here, what I want to do is the first one is, I'll grab all this stuff, right? And that's going to be in here. There we go. We also want to forward declare our U main character overlay, because that's something that we don't know about in the HUD. So what does this do? So first of all, quickly, public, what's happening is we get our main character overlay. We're going to return a reference to the main character overlay from this little funky function. Next, we're going to add in a begin play. Didn't have it by default. Then we have two properties. One of them is a main character overlay class. Remember, the class itself is like we're using T subclass of, because then we can select the class that we want to use. That's what this does. And then in here, in our U property, main character overlay is a reference to the main character overlay itself. So that's what this does. So that is pretty much all that we need to put in. And then main character CPP, we need to add that in because we don't have a begin play. We're going to add that in now. So I'm going to go in and generate that definition for begin play. Begin play is going to call super begin play plus all of this, which is going to configure some of those things. We need a couple of includes, undo. We need a couple of includes that are going to solve this issue, right? One of them is our user widget, the default user widget itself, which is blueprint user widget. And the other one is our main character overlay. So those are the two things that we need. So what is this doing? In begin play, if world exists, then what we're going to do is we're checking to see if the controller we're going to get the world, the get first player controller. That's what that is. And we're going to say that if controller and the main character overlay class exists, so the user actually selected that in the blueprint, then we're going to create the widget, right? And we're going to add it to the viewport. That's what we're going to do. Kind of similar to what we would do normally if we were doing it in blueprints. So this is kind of the C++ version. That's awesome. So now that we've done this, then we can go back and select it. Let's just do Control F5. Then when the build is started, and we're going to put all this up on DevOps in one blow, just to save time, because we're going to time out if we continue like this. We're going to time out anyway. All right, so there we have it. We're back in here. And so now the next thing we have to do is we're going to open up main character HUD. So that means like that's in here. Main character HUD is here. And what we want to do in main character HUD, right, is if I look at the UI, I think I called it UI, or what did I call it? I called it the parent class. Sorry, the parent class has to change first. So what we want to do here is class settings. I want to change the parent class to our main character HUD, this one. There we go, compile and save. And then once we've done that and we've changed that to this, then in UI, the main character overlay class we have to choose is the one that we made, which is WBP main character overlay. So that's going to make a connection between our widget blueprint in blueprints with this main overlay class that we have here. Compile and save. Once we have this, then the HUD, this HUD itself is complete. We don't need to have this anymore. And so let's put this up on DevOps, file, save all. And we're going to say, put that here, and we're going to say view terminal. We're going to say git adapt, git commit -m. We'll say added main character overlay and related HUD. That's what that does. And then once we have this, then what we need to do is change the game mode. So if we go to game mode, we have something called TPP game mode. We did this way earlier, or it was here this semester. When we open this up, we can see that on the right, we have a couple of classes that are default when we create our game mode. One of them was our BP underscore main character when we created that. But now what we can do is we can use our HUD class. We can specify our own default HUD class, which is BP underscore main character HUD. There it is. Once we've added this in, compile and save, then if we did everything correctly, when we start our game again, we should see our HUD on the left-hand corner with our player, which is really cool. Now there's no functionality. So right now, if I run over to the enemy and they hit me, as an example, then you're not going to see anything happening, right? Right. So notice he waits 2 seconds now before he hits me because that's the kind of enemy we made. So no effect. And same thing if I dodge. Dodging doesn't really take anything from my progress bar. We're going to change that now with functionality, right? So that's the next step. So next, what I want to do is we've done all this. I want to modify the main character class. So again, what I'm going to do is file, save all, right? I'm going to close this down. And let's go put that up on DevOps as well. We made some changes. So view terminal, there it is. And we're going to say git add dot git commit -m. We'll say added main character HUD to game mode. That's what we did. And what this does, as soon as we add it to the game mode, when it starts the game, when the game starts, when the level loads, the game mode is also instantiates a bunch of classes by default. And one of them is going to be our default, our custom HUD class, which allows us to see our HUD when we run. But we can't do anything here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click and I'm going to close all tabs. And now we want to work with our main character. So main character.h is where we're going to start. And we want to add this into the public section. So this is take damage. Remember, we had that take damage for our enemy, but we don't have that for our player. Now we do, right? And we also want to add in the protected section has enough stamina. Do I have enough stamina to do the dodge kind of thing? Okay, so that's what I want to add in. That's going to be way down here. Has enough stamina, little function. And in the private section, we're going to add in all this. So private section way at the bottom. We're going to add in all this. This basically says initialize the main character overlay. So it's going to initialize it, set the HUD health by default, and use have a reference to the main character overlay so we can manipulate it. So here we need a for declaration here, right? Which again, I don't like being up here. I want this to be down in here, right? That's just me being a stickler, right, for that kind of stuff. And you can see that now we have to declare these or define these functions. So I'm going to go back up here to main character, go to this, and generate all those functions that we're missing. There they are. And then in here, we're going to start with our take damage function. So the take damage function, right, is what we're going to do is we're going to handle the damage. That's that's built into our base character, right? Then set HUD health. So when we take damage, we're going to reduce our health, and then return the damage amount. So that's what's happening there. Has enough stamina is what we're going to check in a second, but inside of the begin play, see, we did it here. I didn't do it for the enemy, but I did for the player. So here is where we're going to initialize the main character overlay. So that's going to be inside of the begin play. So I'm just going to jump to begin play. Yes. Jump to begin play. And put that just at the bottom here. So that's where we're going to initialize the overlay. And then in the dodge, we're going to put that part in there. So we're going to go into the dodge function. Here's dodge. Dodge. I'm missing it. There. So there's the dodge function. And basically, we have this part. And what I want to do here is two parts, right? If the action state is unoccupied, or we have doesn't have enough stamina, then we're going to return. So we don't want to be able to dodge if we don't have enough stamina. That's the key here. So we're going to put that as another condition here after this part. So we're going to say that, oops. We're going to say that if we don't have enough stamina, then we're going to return. We're going to early exit out of this code. Then this little piece of block of code after the action state dodge is done, we're going to say the following. We're going to say if attributes exist and the main character overlay exists, then it says attributes component is not complete. We're going to add that definition in, include, and same thing with the overlay component. We made those promises, but we never kept them. Now at the top, you can see we've added in a couple of additional things for the attributes, right, as well as the main character overlay. We have to add those things in, otherwise we couldn't possibly make that work. Okay, let's go back to dodge. So in dodge now, we say if they exist, then use stamina. So we'll suck up stamina based on the dodge cost, which we already set up. Then the main character overlay, we're going to set the stamina bar percentage to the new stamina. After we've updated it, we're just going to update the overlay. That's what happens at the same time. Then to check to see if you have enough stamina, that has enough stamina. That's a new function we made, a new little utility function. All it's going to check is that we see if attributes exist. And if attributes exist, then we get stamina. And then we, from there, if stamina is greater than the get dodge costs, then we have enough stamina to dodge. All right, so the dodge cost would be, let's say, a number like 15, and we only have 8 stamina, You can't dodge because it's not enough. Okay. Then in the initialized main character overlay, which is just below that, we're going to put all this. And it's also asking for the main character HUD to be added in. That's another little include that we just added in, right? So again, initialize main character overlay. And what this does is it checks to see if the player controller can be cast to the controller for this player. That's what we're doing. We're setting up a player controller. And then once that's done, we cast the main HUD right to the HUD that's connected to our controller, because our controller and the HUD have a relationship, right? Because the HUD is the class that instantiates our player, because we are the default pawn. We also have a relationship with that in the controller. Next, main character overlay is we're going to assign that to the main character HUD. We just got that, a reference to the main character HUD, and we're going to get the main character overlay. We made this function in the HUD, so we have a reference to it right here. Then we can say main character overlay and attributes. If they both exist, then we can set the health bar percent to whatever the percentage is of the health bar, and then set the stamina percent bar to 1. So we reset it to 1 full. That's what we're doing there. All right, then in the set HUD health, I'm going to continue this, set HUD health, that is going to be our HUD. And then we are also going to update the tick function, because this is the way we're going to regenerate stamina. So I'm going to go to the tick function. Here it is. And underneath that, I'm going to regen stamina kind of every frame. So we're going to pass delta time to regen stamina, and then we're going to update the stamina bar percent based on the stamina that's there. Now this is going to happen. We can also do another check here if we really wanted to say something like, well, if stamina is less than 100, then regen, because otherwise it's going to keep on trying to access this every frame, which could be taxing depending on how many times we do this. But for now, this is pretty good. Okay. So then once we have this, let's check it out and let's see if it works. So control here, control F5, back into thing there, and then we can add in the death montage. Okay. So I know I'm going lickety split here in this here demo, but if we don't, like we're sitting at 10:13 my time, and we still have many miles to before we sleep, like I said. The old man's like saying, because we do have a lot of miles before we sleep. Lots and lots of stuff to do. Here, death montage takes a while, so we're going to try and get through that. All right, so now that we've reloaded everything, let's check to see that everything is working properly. File, save all, and let's run this thing so we can see if our player can get hurt now. You can see the stamina bar works. Take a look. It's not bad, right? So kind of every time I dodge, it kind of goes down, but it kind of goes down slow, right? So now if I get hit, you can see now that I'm taking damage nicely, and it can work pretty good. I can also dodge, so that kind of works out from a stamina percentage. There we go. And I think it's too much. So if you really want to change it up, I think 2 is a better value. So going back to blueprints, and I want to look at character, and I want to look at the main character, maybe I recommend a lower stamina amount. So if I go to combat, oh, sorry, is it UI? No, just type in stamina. Oh no, it's in attributes. That's where it is. So if I go to attributes, there it is. So stamina regenerate is 8. I want to drop this to 2. So this way, and the dodge cost also matters, right? Like how much I'm doing there. So compile and save. And if I go back to press play, then you can see that if I grab my sword, and now we have dodge. You can see now I don't get stamina as much anymore. It takes a lot out of me. Right? And then, so I can't always dodge. I can dodge now, but, it'll make it so that I'm too powerful, right? It makes it almost unstoppable, right? So I don't want that to happen, and that's why, see, I couldn't dodge there because I don't know how, see, I'm pressing the dodge button, but I can't do it because I'm out of stamina, right? There we go. Now I have enough, and now I can dodge finally. So that looks pretty good. File, save all. So now we can put that up on DevOps. So we're going to say something like view terminal. So git dot git commit -m will say added health and stamina. We'll call it abilities. We'll say to the character, which is kind of what we did, right? And we can see it visually. All right, so now that we've got that part, let's go on to the death montage. The death montage, hopefully you guys are okay. You guys okay? Anyone not okay? I got to check that with you guys too. I know that I'm going like super fast, but we've got many slides to go, right? So I want to make sure that I get through it. Some of these slides are quick though, so that's why there may be a lot of them, but I go one step at a time, and here I'm just going to go through it and make sure we finish. So death montage. What I want to do with the death montage is first we need to find a few animations, and I want to rename them. Okay, so that's the first thing I want to do here. So I want to go into the characters animations folder. So assets, character animations in here, but the character assets animations, assets, characters, animations, and the ones I want to find is this one. So standing armed right. So if I say standing death, if I start with that, and if I kind of do that, standing death, then I have all of them here. And what I want to do is I want to copy the ones that I want to move over. So the one I want to move over is standing death right. That's the first one. Standing death, that's backward, forward. Let's just standing death right. How about that? Standing death right 1, armed left. So there's 2 of them. So there's armed left, and there's one that's like not armed, and the other one that's standing death 2. So this is the one I want to copy. So copy that one. I'm going to put that in another folder in the character animations folder. Here, I'm going to make a new folder, and we're going to call this death, right? So I'm going to put this inside of the new folder. So paste. There's that standing death, okay? And I want to do the same thing back in here in the, instead of standing death right, so character animations, we're going to do this one. And I'm going to grab that one, copy it, and paste it inside of our death folder. There we go. And then I'll do the same thing for the third one. And there's a method to my madness, I swear, right? You'll see. So I'm copying them, I'm not using them, and I'll tell you why. Because I'm going to modify them. Whenever I modify stuff, I always want to copy them. I don't want to, change them. So copy that, go back into death, and put that in. So now, that didn't appear. Copy, death, paste. There we go. So now we'll see is we have 3 animations in the death loop. So I made a new folder death, and I copied those 3, the ones that I mentioned here. And what we want to do is rename them. So the first one is I want to rename to the right one. As an example, that's going to be renamed death 1. So the one that says right, this one, I want to rename this to death 1. Okay. Character death 1. How about that? Character death 1. There we go. Okay. And then the one that's forward, I'm going to make that death 2. So forward. So it's going to be character death 2. Okay. And then the other one is, backward. That's going to be character death 3. So backward, character death 3. And maybe I have to rename these ones so that I spell properly. How about that? Because, character. So we have character death 1, character death 2, character death 3. We have all the animations we need for our death montage. Yay! Okay. But we want to do one more thing. I want to copy these 3 death animation sequences and rename them character dead 1, character dead 2, character dead 3. Let's do that next. So grab all those 3 things and copy them right here. So now we have 4, 5, and 6. 4 is death 1, so we're going to call this character dead instead of character death 4, character dead 1. It's important that we match these up. So character dead 1 and character death 1 are the same animations, okay? Same thing with 5. 5 should be character death 2. So character dead 2. Hear me out for a second. You'll see why I'm doing this. Dead 2. And this one will be character dead 3. If I can rename it. Dead 3. Now all of them, character death 1, 2, 3, and character dead 1, 2, 3, they're exactly the same. However, now we're going to make some changes. First, let's go to the first one. The first character, dead, the character dead 1, not death, dead. Two things. One, we want to make it looping. All right, so we want to choose looping. So it's going to loop forever when we get this one. Next, we don't want every one of these animations. This is going to be our dead pose. This is the death animation. But what we want is when it gets to the last frame, we want it to stay there like this. All right, so we're going to take our scrubber, put it to the last frame, right click here at the top, and we're going to say remove frame 0 to frame 60. Okay, and when we remove that, all we have is a single frame animation that just basically shows this in death pose, like this. Okay, kind of a trick actually, is what we just did. And same thing for the other ones. Let's do the other ones. So that's dead 1 is fine. Get dead 2. Dead 2 is a different kind of thing where they fall forward. And we're going to just make sure that that is looping. We're going to put the scrubber at the end. The frame count is different for every one. Go right to the right, and then we're going to say frame 0 to 95. And now this is going to be a single frame animation where basically they're just going to look like this. Okay, nice, nice, nice. So that is like the character dead 2. And then character dead 3, again, it's a dead pose. So it's going to look like this. We're going to make that looping. And what we're going to do is move this all the way to the end again to 93. Right click here at the end and then remove frame 0 to 93. Right. And then if I press play, it's going to be looping, dead. That's it. Okay. So that's these guys. So there are 3 dead poses. So really what it is notice now they changed to the preview. So dead 1, dead 2, and dead 3 are just the death poses for character death 1, death 2, and death 3. Yay! File, save all, and those are the first things we're doing. Next, now that we've got those, right, and we've made all these changes to death 1, 2, 3, we can make our death montage. Let's do that. So I'm going to go into animations, and we're going to make a right click, and we're going to add a new animation montage, right? And here we're going to choose the skeleton art, the SK Archer skeleton. AM death montage. There we go. Here's the AM death montage. What I want to do with this is I want to go to my asset browser and I want to look at those character death now. Death 1, 2, 3. Death 1, death 2, death 3. Okay, death 1, 2, 3. Name this death 1, 2, 3. Death 1, death 2. Make sure it's aligned. And death 3. Okay, so death 1, 2, 3, right? Right now they flow into each other, right? We don't want that. We want to go to montage sections and clear them so they're all individual. And we have all those 3 montage sections, death 1, 2, 3. And that is our death montage. Now, what we want to do is the same thing for the enemy, but instead of doing all that work, we just want to retarget the ones we just made and put them inside of the enemy, kind of stuff. So let's make a new folder, first prepare. So we'll file, save all. We can close the death montage for the player, and we can go back into the blueprints enemy. And inside the animations folder, let's make a brand new blueprint, a brand new folder called death. So we're preparing for the death animations that are going to go in there specifically, so we can find them easily and all that stuff. What we want to do is go back into the death animations and the dead animations, and I just want to choose one of them. So let's choose like this one, doesn't matter. And I want to click retarget animations. It's going to bring up the retargeter. What we don't want is to auto-generate retargeter again. We already have one. We can select the one we already made, which is RTG Archer to Paladin retargeter. This shows this image where we see the Archer, which is a little taller than the Paladin. We adjusted for this because we made our Paladin scaled a little bit differently. But now what we want to do is we want to select the animations we want to retarget, which are the dead and the death animations, these 6, dead 1, 2, 3, death 1, 2, 3. We want to click on export animations. We want to choose blueprints, enemy, animations, death as the folder. This is where it's going to go. We can rename them. This is kind of neat, where we say instead of character death, so we can search for character, we can change that, we can replace character with enemy, right? Because we said character, death 1, character, death 2, character, death 3. Now we're going to say enemy, death 1, enemy. And we're going to click export. And what this does is if you press through it, it creates enemy dead 1, dead 2, dead 3. And then enemy death 1, 2, 3. You can check those. You can see that they're the exact same, but using the paladin, as opposed to the enemy, the player. All right. So pretty good. File save all. Make sure that all that is saved. And now we can make the death montage for the enemy as opposed to just the thing. So we're going to do the same thing that we did from before, the exact same thing. So we're going to go into enemy montages, make a new montage based on the paladin, new and a montage based on the paladin skeleton, this one. And we're going to say am underscore enemy death montage. Make it very specific. And just like before, when we launch this thing, we're just going to pull in the ones we want. So it's death 1, 2, 3. So death 1, death 2, death 3. There we go. And we're going to name them death 1, death 2. Make sure it's aligned. And death 3. There we go. So 1, 2, 3. Now by montage sections, clear them, and then save. There we go. We have 2 montages now. We have the montages, right? And that's the first part of this, actually creating the assets, which is what we just did. Now, what we want to do is we want to get into Visual Studio. So we're going to do a lot of Visual Studio work here to make all this happen. And this is where we're going to spend the majority of the last part of our time, which is, I'm going to try and get it all done, but we're going to run right to the end. I'm pretty positive. So here, we're going to file save all, and we're going to close this down. And we're going to put this up on DevOps. They added death montages. Okay, we added all these assets, dead 1, 2, 3, death 1, 2, 3 for the character and the enemy, which is pretty cool. And now what we want to do is we want to add a new, so with the editor closed, we're going to go to here under target, we're going to add in a new item, which we're going to make a new enum, right? Make sure that the target is correct. Browse to the proper folder, please, because otherwise you'll be messed up. I don't want that to happen, right? It's never going to show up. And then here, what we're going to do is we're going to choose the name, which is deathpose.h. All right, so that's the one that we're going to choose here, deathpose.h. And we're going to save it in the right place. So there's our deathpose.h. We're going to grab all of this code, and here it is. And what it's going to be is a couple things here. We have death 1, 2, 3, and we're also going to have a default max. I can add in more death poses here if I wanted to. Instead of just having 3 death poses, we can have more. But the more we add in, it would just make our day longer because we have to do all those deaths and everything else plus the death pose. And it's a lot. So we're not going to do that. All right, next. What we want to do is in the base character, we're going to do a couple things here to set up. So now that I've added the death pose, back to the base character.h. Okay, and I'm going to close off some of these things so we don't need them anymore. In base character.h, we're going to add in this in the public section. Okay, so 2 things. In the public section, we're going to go here and we're going to add those 2 things in. So one of them is the attack. We're going to make sure that we can have an attack that is a virtual function we can override. Okay, that's what we're going to do. And here, notice it says we need to add in deathpose.h. That's okay because it's just an enum. Okay, that's what it's going to be. So deathpose.h got added in up here. That's fine. Deathpose we don't know about yet because we haven't added it in. We're going to add it in down here. Okay, so next we're going to grab all of these, but notice that this one, combat target, it says we need to move this from the enemy.h. Yeah, so enemy.h, right? we have combat target, right? That's here, combat target. So combat target is something that we built in, but we wanted the combat target now to be part of the base character because we're moving that over, right? So again, here's combat target dot right here. So instead of it being here, we're going to cut it out of here and out of enemy, and we're going to put it into the base character, and we're going to put it inside the protected section. So way down here, under handle damage, we're going to put in combat target. Okay, so combat target now is going to be at a higher level than when it was before. Before it was part of enemy. Now it's part of base character. So enemy knows about base character because enemy is a base character. Therefore, it has access to this combat target here. We just moved it higher up on the hierarchy. Next, once we've done this, we can add all of this in. And let's put that in there. And what this is basically a couple things. One, we're adding in a new die function, which is a blueprint native event. And what this does, again, is if you remember, it does two things. One, we have to have a die implementation, just like we had a hit, a get hit. We have a die implementation. Now, what we could have done here is we could have created a new interface called, kind of like I-die interface, where, when we apply those to the base character .h, and we could have defined the die function inside that interface as opposed to making it here, right? But this is fine, just to save some time. Is alive is going to tell us if we're alive or not. We're going to be able to disable the capsule on the mesh collider, as well as play the death montage, stop attacking montage is something else we want to control of because we don't want the enemy to keep attacking. We're going to have a reference to the death pose, the death montage, and the death montage sections, death 1, 2, 3, which is right here. So now that we've done this, let's go up here to the top and add that in, those definitions into the base character. And is alive is what we're going to, or sorry, get hit implementation is where we're going to change some stuff. So first thing is we're going to go to get hit implementation. We want to check to see if it's not just a hitter, but are we alive? So if we're not alive, we don't care about getting hit, right? That's what this means, right? So first we check is alive, and then we check to see if why do we have an extra thing there? We don't need to. And then we get the directional hit react. So we're not going to get the hit react happening if somehow I'm hitting the enemy and they're dead. Next, otherwise, if we're not alive, then die, right? So else, we're going to call the die, kind of function, right? So die is going to do that. Then we're going to spawn particle. So die is going to call the die implementation, right? Which we're going to do per character for both the enemy and the player. They're going to be slightly different. Next, the base character attack. We're going to change that. So we're going to go to there. We're going to jump into the base character attack function. There it is. And we're going to put that functionality in there. This is going to basically say if the combat target exists and the combat target actor has dead, then the combat target doesn't exist. It has no pointer. Next, in the die implementation, what we're going to do is we're going to add in the dead tag, right, to anyone that is dead. And then we're also going to play their death montage, whatever that happens to be, right? The play death montage, what we're going to do next, play death montage. We're going to jump to that one. So play death montage. Play death montage is basically going to be like this, where we're going to play a random montage section, 1, 2, 3, and we're going to use that same death pose to play that same death pose, that we're going to play. Depending on the death montage, we'll play the same death pose. We're also going to do the stop attacking. So just after we don't want the player to keep attacking, once they've, the enemy to keep attacking after they're dead. So we're going to basically say that get the anim instance, the animation blueprint, and we're basically going to say, hey, stop that montage, stop the attack montage. We don't want that attack montage to continue anymore. So that's why we had to bring that forward. And then the blend out time is 0.25. So they're not going to be immediately, but we have to have some kind of blend out. Otherwise, it'll be like a sharp cut to like not attacking anymore. And we don't want that. Next, we want to change the disable capsule. So we're going to say to disable, that's way out here, disable capsule. And disable capsule and set collision enabled to no collision. So we're going to disable that so they can't be, they're not going to have that. And we need to get that capsule component because we don't know about it in here inside of my base character.h. We're also going to do the same thing with our mesh. So we're going to disable the mesh too. When one of the characters is dead, enemy or character, we can disable them. And then finally, if it's alive, it's a little helper function that we're going to use that basically tells, that's going to help us determine if it's alive. And all it does, instead of us typing this every single time, is alive, does it for us, right? And that is the main character so far. Sorry, base character. Now we're going to jump to the main character. So I'm going to save all, close those two things off. And the main character is where we're going to do some work. So first we want to add in its own die implementation. So we're going to put that in the protected section. So all the way down here. And in the protected section, yeah, that's fine. Put it down here. So here's the die implementation. And then let's define that. So we're going to go here, and we're going to go to generate definition. And inside that definition, all we want to do basically do is, remember when we die, we set our tag to dead. And now the other thing we want to do is we want to set up that the character is dead, and we're going to disable the mesh collision for the character so that there is no mesh collision anymore for the character. So that's what's going to happen there. And then what we also want to do is we want to disable some stuff in the look function. So the character shouldn't be able to look around, right, or do anything. So if I go to the look function, then what we want to do is at the top of it, we want to add this thing, check to see if the character's alive. And if they're not alive, then exit early. We don't want to be able to look, right? The other thing we don't want to do is we don't want the character to jump, right? Because these are all functions we haven't disabled, right? So jump is also a thing. So jump. Notice we also, something to note is that we also didn't make it so that we can't jump if we're occupied. We can actually jump and attack. And we could have disabled this too. Maybe what we want to do in the future is not only are we alive, but we're also unoccupied. Otherwise, we can't jump. So if we're attacking, we can't jump while we're attacking because you can do that right now. Okay. So we're not doing stop jumping because if we're stop jumping, then we're already landed. This would assume that we're in the air, but we're not going to allow us to be in the air if you're dead, right? So that's what this does. And then we're going to jump to the enemy class. So we've done the changes to the character. Here we go. And we're going to jump into the enemy.h and .cpp because we need to do similar things to them. Okay? Similar things to them. So we're going to go into the enemy.h, right? And in the public section, we're going to put a destroyed override. Destroyed is actually part of the default enemy because we're actually going to destroy the enemy. We're going to make them disappear after a time, right? So we're going to say what happens when they're destroyed. We want to clean some stuff up. The other one is in the private section, right? We want to say, we want to check to see if they're dead. And we're also going to have a death lifespan of about 8 seconds, right? That's how long they're going to last before they actually disappear. So enemies aren't going to just be there anymore. That's going to be in the private section. So way at the bottom. And so there's is dead and also this little property that's going to have this death lifespan. Okay. Then what I want to do is let's define those two things. So enemy, generate definitions. Here we go. And then what I want to say is, first of all, we want to do the die implementation. Did I not put that in? Oh, I didn't. I did not. See, it's going so fast. In the protected section is where I want to put that in. So that's right at the bottom here, below handle damage. I want to put that die implementation. I'm going to put that in there too. Because it's going to have its own die implementation because, of course, it's going to be different than the player. So first, is dead. All we're going to do is that's a little helper function that's going to help us, kind of determine if we're dead or not. So instead of typing this in every single time, we're going to check to see what the enemy state is, which is dead. That's what it's going to be. Okay. So that's what the is dead function is going to do. The die implementation, again, I'm just going to go to here and go to die implementation. There we go. The die implementation is going to use the super die implementation, which is going to mark it as dead with the tag and so on. We're also going to change the enemy state to dead. We're going to clear the attack timer, hide the health bar, disable the capsule, set the lifespan to 8 seconds, and then get the character movement, make sure it's false so the character can't move. So we're not going to remember the enemy is moving around, right? So we're going to stop the character from walking, and then we're going to set the weapon collision also to false, just in case you step over it, because then you can take damage by, you want to walk through it, right? All right, so save. So all that's good for the die implementation. Then when we're destroyed, what we want to do, we also want to destroy the weapon that we're holding. That's why we need to have that special destroyed method in there, because when we remove the enemy, the sword will stay there. We don't want that. So that's kind of weird, and that's why we're going to make it so that the sword also disappears, not just the enemy. Okay, so that's just happened there. And then we're going to modify some code. We're going to modify that get hit implementation, because now that we're dead, we want to activate that when we're hit. So get hit implementation is this, right? We have the impact point. That's all good. But we want to add in, if we're dead, then stop showing the health bar, because we don't want to keep showing the health bar if we're dead. Okay. So we have a show health bar, and we want to hide the health bar, right? So we're only going to show the health bar if we're not dead. That's what this is, right? Then down in here, where the player under the player is detected, we want to clear attack, and we want to change the attack, the start attack. Yeah, I'm going to change this for a second to talk about this a bit. So we're going to say that start attack timer, if we're not dead, then player is detected. So we can get rid of this part, the player, because our player detected is twice, right? If we're not dead. So this is actually wrong. Let's take this out. And let's just take this out, because player is detected only when they're not dead. Otherwise, the player is not detected. That's what has to happen there. And then we start the attack timer. Else, if the player is dead, we stop the attack montage. We don't let them attack, and we clear the combat target, so there is no combat target anymore. Otherwise, they're going to try and keep attacking the character, even if they're dead. That's not good. So save all. So that's the first change. The next one we want to do is we don't want our enemy changing states. So I want to set up this if is dead return. This is an early exit, and I want to put this in a bunch of places. So one of them is in the pawn scene. I don't want the enemy to be able to see with dead eyes. So where they're still there. So again, I'm going to go to pawn scene, and basically just underneath the scene pawn, I'm going to return early, right? And now what I want to do is I'm going to copy that line, like I said, and I'm going to put it in a bunch of places. One of them is the on action radius overlap. So on action radius overlap up at the top here, we're going to say that let's early exit. Okay. We also want to do that for on action radius end overlap. So if you're leaving the area, you also want to not do it if you're dead. If you're dead, don't even go there. We're not even going to do that stuff. Move to target. That's also going to be something we don't want to do. We don't want to move anywhere, right? Just in case. And the reason we're putting this in there is just in case this gets activated, because it's all about timing, right? So I've just killed someone, but maybe their move to target got activated. I kind of hit him and I moved out of the way, and he's moving towards me, but he's dead, right? So that could be weird. So that's why we're kind of putting that up there as well. And then check patrol target, also something we don't want to allow. We want to say that you can't check patrol target if you're dead. And also, you can't finish the patrol timer, at all when they're dead. We don't want that to happen. So, and then finally, we can't player detect. So we can't detect the player, right? So player detected. We don't want that if they're dead. So add that in. And we also can't do attack if they're dead. So no attacking. Attacking is not an option, right? If they're dead. So no attacking. One thing we noticed also is the attack function. We have an attack function in both places. Enemy.h has an attack function. So if I go back to attack, notice it has this underline, because what we have to do is mark this attack as a virtual override, because what we've done is we've added the attack function inside of the base character.h. Okay, so that's something we had to do here as well. So compile and save. All right, otherwise the attack function would be something that we're blocking. It's the exact same thing. So keep a note of that as well. So now that we've done all that, that was a breeze through. We have to connect all the montages. So that's the first thing. This is just to check to see if the enemy can die. Well, first we want to change to do one thing at a time. So here I've saved everything, and we're going to do a little bit of a DevOps push, git add dot, git commit -m, and we'll say enabled enemy death. That's what we've done here. We haven't done the enemy death, we just enabled it, git push. And then what we need to do is a bunch of stuff now in Unreal Engine, Control F5. So we have the death montage, we haven't activated it yet, and we haven't connected it even to the enemy at all. We have to do all those things before we continue, right? Because the enemy now knows about the death montage, but there isn't a connection, so we're going to do that in a second. Guys, I will run overtime, so if you have to go at 11, totally understand, but I will continue recording, so you guys have everything for your in-class exercise 12, and I'm also going to post this today to make it easier for you. All right, so back up to the enemy. What we want to do is I want to go to the enemy blueprint. That's the first thing. And in the enemy blueprint, I want to look for, well, sorry, that's the main character blueprint. I want in the main character blueprint first, let's connect them all. So it's okay. Let's do that. I'll do both in a second. So main character blueprint, I want to go to combat. And in combat, I see a death montage. I can add that in. So there's the death montage. I'm connecting it. And then in the death montage sections, I'm going to add 1, 2, 3, and we'll just call this death 1, death 2, and death 3. Those are them. Compile and save. That's the first step to do that. You have to add those in. Next, we'll do the same thing with the enemy. So again, we'll go combat. And we'll add the death montage for the enemy, enemy death montage. Make sure you choose the right one. And then 1, 2, 3 for 3 montage sections. Death 1, death 2, and death 3. Now again, what this does is allow us to add more than these. That's why I'm showing you how I would do it. I would add multiple of these, maybe a lot different ones, one for each kind of position. You can have random deaths, a lot of really cool things you can add in, but right now we're good to go. So now that we've done both of those, we've done them, I want to kind of modify the animation blueprint. And this is where it gets a little hairy. And I'm sorry to do this to you guys, but there's no other way of doing this. So in the animation blueprint for the character, let's go back to that. I'm going to start with this one. We have these, right? And what we need to do is way up here, I'm going to zoom out here for a second. These are all the events from the notifies, right? So I'm going to take all these notify events and push them way down, okay? What we need to do is I'm just going to grab this right here and we'll bring it down so we can see it. This is just a sequence node, and I'm going to add in 3 more pins. 1, 2, 3 for the sequence node. This is inside the animation blueprint under the update animation event. So what I want to do here is I want to get a validated get for each and cast it to main character. I want to do that. So this part is what I want to grab. Copy that, and I want to kind of push that in there. Now, again, I could use the main character as well. So I could just get that as well. I put these like this where I'm casting multiple times, but you could just grab main character. So that's this. And I want to make it a validated get. It's very important to do that, okay? Because otherwise you don't know if it's going to happen. So that's this, and I want to grab this 3 times. 1, 2, 3, because we're going to do the same thing 3 times. Again, it's slightly different than in the PowerPoint, but it's like doing this 3 times, okay? And I already have it here, so why, if I can do it like this? It's going to happen in sequence anyway, so I'll already have it while this is being done. 1, 2, 3, and I want to connect them. So we're ready to go, okay? 1, 2, 3. Next, once I have those 3, then what I want to do is I want to get the action state, the character state, and the death pose. So get action state, character states, and the death pose. Okay, those are the 3 things I got. And then finally, what I want to do, I want to promote those all to variables. So this is promote to variable, this is promote to variable, this is promote to variable. All right, so these are all promoted to variables now. And I'm doing this because because we want to make sure that we have everything we need every frame. We want to get what those states are so we can modify our animation. So if, for example, if I go into a death pose, I want to change my animation so it shows my death pose. If I'm in a dead state, play the death montage. That's what I'm going to do with the action state. Okay, so those are the three. I've added them in here and compile and save. I'm not going to add in the comments just to save time, but the comments are here. Next, what I want to do is add a new state in the anim graph. So again, in the anim graph, I'm going to go into the main states, and you can see the main states have these. What I want to do is I want to add in a new state, which is called new state, which is dead, right? And that's going to be here inside the anim graph. So how do I get to dead? This is the transition. Well, I get to dead by taking my action state, and if it's dead, then that's the transition. So again, the action state, and then if I say equal, equal, and again, there's two equals, equal, equal, and equal, equal enum. And if I say that, if I'm dead, if that's the action state, when I'm dead, then that's how I can transition to the dead state. Okay, again, I can make this all nice, save. All right, so that's what that is. Back to main states, that is the transition node, but I want actually to also figure this out, and this is where I want to get my death pose. So I'm going to get my death pose. From the death pose, this is how you get this other thing. I want to blend, right? Blend poses, and I want to type E death pose. That's what I want to do. So look at this is the filter I need to use. Blend poses, E death pose. And this is going to give me the blend poses node. Now it looks only like this, but what you can do with this node is if you right click onto it, it detects how many poses there are in the enum, because it's an enum, detects them, and I can add in death 1, death 2, death 3 by right clicking. Okay, so that's what I've done here. And now what you do is you drag in the death poses. It's dead 1, 2, 3 in that order. So if I go down here and if I type in dead, oops, dead, here they are. So death 1, I'm going to have that as the default pose, but I'm also going to have that as the death 1 pose. So that's dead 1. And then dead 2, I'm going to have that as this pose. And death 3, let's pull those up. Death 3, I'm going to have that as that pose. There are the poses, okay? And compile and save. So that is your new animation blueprint update, because you can't do anything with the anime. It won't die unless you have this stuff happen, okay? So you have to have this animation blueprint. Let's here, file, save all. Oops. File, save all. And then what we're going to say is we're going to go back into Visual Studio and view terminal. And I'm going to say git add dot, git commit -m, and we'll say added, updated AVP main character with dead state of death. We'll say death state. So we know that so animation blueprint will know what to do when the character dies. That's what that is. Okay, so that's this part. And next, once we've got this, we've done all this stuff, then we want to do the same thing for the enemy. We've done this part for the enemy, right? But what we want to do with the enemy is we want to continue with their animation blueprint. So again, going back to the enemy's animation blueprint, we'll bring that up. There it is. And just like we did before, we want to just drag down all of this. Okay, so we're going to drag all this down here just to make ourselves some room. And what we want to do is we want to add in a sequence node here. So we're going to just go over here and we're going to add in a sequence node, right? Here's a sequence node for this state. There we are. And we're going to add in a couple pins. So 0, 1, 2, just like this, 1, 2. We want to get a validated version of the enemy. So get enemy, and we'll say validated get. That's this, right? That's the validated get that we want. We want to do this twice. Copy, paste. There we go. And we want to connect those two pins. So one pin there and one pin there, right? And just like we did before, we want to get two things, enemy state and death pose. So we're going to say enemy state and death pose. Very similar to that. So we have those two things, similar to what we did with the character, right? And then, of course, what we want to do this is promote them as variables. So promote to variable, promote to variable. So again, every frame, what we're doing is we're doing this, and we're setting the variable. We're promoting it once, but we're setting the variable every frame so they know what the enemy state is in the death pose. And this is happening on the animation. So compile and save. Again, I'm not going to add in the comments. That's for you to do. Here inside of the animation blueprint, the anim graph now, I want to go to the anim graph. So anim graph, here it is. Inside the anim graph, if we go to main states, you can see that we only have idle, walk, run. Well, let's add in another state, and we'll call this dead. Just like we did before, we want to go into the thing that's going to make us transition to dead, and we're going to get a death pose, and we're going to say that if it's equal to equal, again, equal to the enum, equal to dead, ooh, death pose. No, that's not what I want. I want enemy state. Sorry, get enemy state. And if I say equal to dead, that was interesting though. I can say that I'm dead. If I'm dead, then transition. That's what this means. Same kind of video. Compile and save. Excellent. When I transition, how does it work? Same thing. I'm going to get the death pose this time. And then from here, go to blend poses. And then E death pose, this one, same one as the other one. Connect them. And what we want to do is the same thing. Right click. Notice how this works. Right click, death 1. Right click, death 2. Right click, death 3, in that order, right? And now that we have those, on the right, we can filter for dead, right? And drag in dead 1 for the default pose here, dead 1 for the death pose 1. That's it. And dead 2, as well as dead 3. And now we have all these ones, all the different death options for both characters, the enemy and the character. Wonderful. All right. And now, wow, I think I'm almost done. We should make it work. Now, we haven't tested any of this. Let's see what happens. So compile and save. Let's put this up on DevOps, right? So we know that that is the thing. And we're going to say git add dot, git commits -m. And we'll say something like enabled, well, what did I say last time? Updated ABP. Yeah, okay, that's right. Updated ABP enemy with death state. There we go. Okay. And does it work? That's the crazy part, right? So let's check it out. So first thing is so this is all the testing part now. So we've connected everything, we've saved everything, and now let's go in there. I can see that how it works. I'll grab this guy. So first of all, let me die. Let's see how this works. So if I die, okay, hit again, hit again, hit again, and dead. And now, see I pop back up. So I shouldn't pop back up. I shouldn't pop back up, right? So that's a mistake. So why am I popping back up is the question, right? So that's the first thing we have to look at. It's almost perfect though. It's almost there. But I am popping back up. So what that means is that I'm not shifting my state properly. So there's something I missed, right? So that's the first thing. Let's see if we can do the same thing with the enemy. What's the problem with the enemy? Can I get them? So, right? And 1, 2, 3, they die. And do they stay down? They do. And after a few seconds, they're gone, right? And I'm not going to get hurt by them, whatever. I didn't even take a point of damage here because that's how good I am, right? Lies, I said. All right, and hey, where's the other guy? What happened to I only have like one enemy here. It's like they're gone. All that work I did with the other guy, and he's now there's only one enemy. That was weird. I kind of lost that, the other enemy, which is, I guess I never saved the scene. Oh yeah, when I redid everything. So let's add that other enemy in. So I'm just going to go 1, 2, 3. And let's add that. Try that again. This one, him, and this. And let's just do an alt drag. And we'll just put that over here. And that should be good. Let's try this out now. So now we have another enemy. He's coming at me. Oh, yeah. Let's see how difficult it is. So why isn't the character staying down? So I can hit that guy, can dodge out of the way, hit both of them, right? We get it pretty good here. Well, okay, and I can kill both of them at the same time. And now I can even walk on top of them. Look, right? Because I can do that. And then when they're done, they disappear. That works well. The only thing we have to fix now is the character, and then we'll figure out what why that's happening. And let's see here. So run over, and if he kills me, I want to make sure that that happens. So see how he's like running and he's not attacking me because I'm backing up. But if I stay there, then he will eventually attack me, right? This guy's not though. Oh, there he is. So I'm not waiting long enough. I've taken away that that attack animation. Okay, and one more hit, and then I fall over and I jump back up. So why I can't move, which is good. So the not moving part is good, but why do I jump back up? Why do I go back into that idle state? Right, is the question. And we can see hints of this inside of our character. So enemy kills us. Let's take a look and see what happens when we go into that death thing. And let's see if you guys can help me figure it out. Okay. So without me looking at my notes, because I don't want to do that. That's cheating. So here's my main character. And I want to go to the main character.cpp and take a look at them. So I got hit. Yay, I got hit. And when I get hit, if my action state is equal to dodge, I don't get hit, right? But I got hit, and I use the get hit implementation, set weapon collision enabled to no collision, I can't hit, and my action state is hit reaction. Okay, hit reaction. So I react. Yay, I've reacted. And then I take damage. And then after I take damage, right, I handle the damage, and I set the HUD health and everything else. And then when I'm dead, I set my action state to dead, right, as an example. So that's what's happening there. So my die implementation happens. I set myself to dead. I go into the dead state as an example as well, right? And then what? What happens next, right? So my hit react makes myself unoccupied. So let's take a look at my states, because that can give us a hint of what's happening. What is my state that I'm in right now? Because that's important, right? Because there's something that's making me stand up again, and it's usually because I go back to an unoccupied state, and I don't want to do that, because if I'm unoccupied, then I'll stand up again, because that's part of my role. Remember my ABP blueprint. This is the last part, guys. I'm so sorry to run over time. But the ABP blueprint, what it does, if you recognize what this does, if I go back to main states here, right? That's the enemy. Enemy's working perfectly. The character from my enum graph, right? So inside of my main states, here's what's happening, right? When I transition, it says, if I should move, then move, or whatever. But if not, then I go back to this, kind of an idle state. Because if I go to the locomotion, right? So if I go back to the cached locomotion poses, so let's go back to that enum graph. Here's locomotion, right? Here's my idle state. And the way I transition back to idle, so idle to walk is this, idle to run, or sorry, walk to idle is if should move is false, right? So if I'm not moving anymore, I go back to idle. But the only way I should be able to go back to idle is if I'm alive, not dead, right? So I shouldn't be able to do this at all, right? So this is the thing. So now let's see if I can troubleshoot this thing. So what I want to do is I want to look at my my states that are happening here inside of the player. So I'll press play. What I want to do is I want to just choose the main character, and I want to walk towards the enemy here, right? So let's do that. Right, I want to be seen by the enemy, and they see the player's detected is there. And then what I want to do on the side here is I want to see my state. So if I go to state, right? I'm unequipped and I'm in hit reaction state, right? So look, take a look. I'm constantly in hit reaction state, right? And there I am. Look, I'm being hit. I'm being hit, right? As an example, and then eventually I should die, right? Because I'm dead. Look at, but I'm still in hit reaction, right? I shouldn't be in hit reaction if I'm dead. So that is the thing. So that's what's happening. And a way to stay this, one more thing, let me try that again. And I want to show you that, again, I'm just going to just choose the main character again. And if I change my state to dead, so here's my unequipped state. If I change my state to, my action state to dead, right, then what happens is I'm down here and I stay down, right? So that's what I want. I want this thing to stay dead. So really, it's just not getting to that hit reaction part. I don't want to be able to hit react if I'm dead. So if that's true, that could be a simple fix. If I go back to my, whatever puts me into unoccupied, I got to look at unoccupied, right? So, or hit react is what we want to do. So let's look for that. So file, so look for hit, react. And I want to put in, that's just in this document. So I want to search for that. And let's look at hit react. So there's hit reaction. So enemy state, when I get hit implementation, this is what's happening. But if I'm being hit and I'm already dead, then I shouldn't be able to do this. So this is another place we can say that, I can't do it. Only if I'm alive do I want to put into my get hit. I can't be hit anymore if I'm dead. So here, let's try that. So the first thing I want to try is alive, right? If is alive, I'm good. But if not is alive, then what I want to do is I want to return. That's what I want to do. So this is something that I want to do. So let's try this out. I'll say Control Alt F11 to quickly fix this problem and see if this is the issue. And again, I don't want to cheat and look, but I get a feeling that when I'm being hit, if I get hit again, then I go back into the hit reaction mode. And I don't want that. I want to stay dead, right? So let's do that in a second. So back to this. Let's try it out. So again, I'm going to press play, and I don't want to pick up a weapon. I just want to go over and die. Right, so he's waited for a bit, and I get hit, and I get hit again, and I get hit another time, and he's going to give me 5 hits, and when finally I'm dead, I can't be hit anymore when I'm dead, but I'm not hit reacting, and I'm not dying. So that's not the solution, because I can walk around with 0 health, and I can't dodge, I can dodge, but I can't look, because I know I can't look because I can, I'm dead. So that's not the answer. So it's not here that I have to put it, right? I want to get into this thing. I just don't want to do this part. I want to be able to get the hit implementation and all this stuff, right? And because if I get hit, then what's going to happen is I take damage, and if I take enough damage, then I should be able to die, right? So that's so it's not here. But we don't want to go into hit reaction. Where else do I go into hit reaction mode? Because I go into hit reaction there, hit react end is there. So that's also unoccupied. And there's no more instances, it's just there. So that's the only place that I get into hit react mode. So what if we say the only way you can get here is if this is not true? So let's put that check. Instead of up there, let's put it down here. So instead of if is alive, if not alive, then return, otherwise go into hit react mode, right? Okay, so let's try that one. So save, and we're going to say that Control Alt F11. And again, if you have another solution, if you figured it out, you guys can let me know. Because I mean, again, I want to check my notes because I know that there's a solution in my notes. I just didn't put it in the slides because as I was creating them, good things happen to bad people. Bad things happen to good people. So let's try this again. So now that I've changed that, let's see what happens there. So I get hit. I get hit again, hit reacting, and I get hit to react again. And I just want to die now. Come on, die. And there we go. Now I'm dead. And do I pop back up again? No. There we are. So this solution. See, I don't go back into hit react mode. Now he can still hit me. He's still hitting me. Look at him. And we don't want this to happen either. He wants to lose interest. As soon as I'm dead, he wants me to like not, I want him to stop, right? To stop fighting me. That's another thing. So this guy's still attacking me. That's another issue. So we solved one issue, but the other issue is, well, he's going to continue to do this, to continue to attack me because, you know, I haven't told him not to. So what do? We can check to see the only way he's going to attack me anymore if I'm alive. Otherwise, stop attacking, right? So how do I check that? So I'm going to go back to my enemy.h and .cpp, and let's see when that happens. So players detected, you know, whatever, and I want to attack, right? But if I'm dead, right, then how do I stop attacking? I want to be able to stop attacking if the person that he's seeing, the person that's in front of him that's detected, right, is dead. Let's take this player detected stuff out too. We don't want that anymore. So player detected, okay, if my player's detected, go to definition for that one. Here I am. If I'm dead, then return. But the other thing is, you know, I don't want to do anything anymore if I'm still attacking. If I'm attacking, I want to stop attacking if I'm dead. So that's what the thing is saying. So I'm in attack mode, right? So again, I don't want to look at my notes, but can you suggest someplace where I can stop attacking if the player is dead? And how do I detect if the player is dead? That's the other thing I got to do too, right? So we're almost there. So if I go to attack, so if I'm dead, return. If not, play the attack montage, right? That's what's happening here. So I want to do two things. If I'm in attack mode, you know, as an example, I want to detect if my player, the thing that I'm attacking, as an example, if I'm dead. Well, how do I detect that? Do I detect it from, you know, is there a way of detecting that? Well, the only way I can detect, I can't detect anything about the player here, right? Because there's no information about the player here. I do have a combat target though, right? So my combat target, if my combat target is dead, that's something I can check. So if I can say something like, well, how about this? If combat target, right? And I want to say something like, you know, if I check is alive, can I check for is alive? Because combat target, I can't. Combat target is, if I hover over, combat target is an actor. So I need to make it a main character again. So I got to say something like, you know, a main character pointer, we'll say main character, right, is equal to cast. And we want to cast, you know, as our, the main character, or a main character, sorry, a main character. And we want to cast the combat target as that. If I can cast it as a main character, if my combat target is a main character, then what I can say is main character, I want to is alive. Is that something I can access? Can I access is alive? And the thing is, if I hover in there, it says member is inaccessible because is alive is what we've done is we've made it into another thing. So let's go into there. So go to definition for is alive. You can see that is alive is here in the base character.cpp, right? Is alive, but is alive checks to see if I'm alive, and that's in the base character. So base character.h, here it is. And if I look at is alive, I've put it inside the protected section, right? It should be, if I want to do this, then I should move this to the public section, right? So I can put that here. And if I move this to public, save, and if I go back to my enemy here, then I can check to see if it's alive. So I can say if main character is not alive, right, then exit, right? I don't want to do that, but you know, so if not is alive, right? If main character is not alive, but I don't want to do it this way. I want to say if not main character is alive, then I don't want to return. I want to change the enemy state. I want to change the enemy state to, so enemy states, instead of is patrolling, right? I could make him lose interest. That's him losing interest, right? Let's accept that for a second and come back. I want to say the enemy state is patrol. So I want to say combat target first. Combat target is null pointer. So I want to just basically, kind of make it so that there's no more combat target for him. And then the enemy state, instead of patrolling, let's make it something else. So we'll say that it is, we can put it into no state, as an example. We can put it into, into engaged. Let's put it in no state for now, right? We want to clear the attack timer, that's for sure. And we don't want to patrol. We just want to just clear the attack timer. We can also say stop attacking, right? So stop attack montage. That is definitely what we want to do. We want to stop the attack montage and clear the attack timer so that we don't have that anymore. Actually, we'll do that the other way around. Clear the attack timer and stop the attack montage. And then what we want to do is return. So even if we ever get in there, as an example, we won't ever get to that thing again. Okay, so this is a stopgap in the attack method, right? Let's see if this works. So it'll attack me once and then it won't attack me anymore. All right, let's try this out. Oh, we have to Control Alt F11. I don't know if this is going to work because I'm changing a base character, trait. I may have to rebuild. Let's see if it works. And then I think we're done for today if we get this working. This is the last part. All right, so this is good. It built somehow, and let's see if our enemy is not going to attack me when I'm dead. So 1, 2, 3. He's going to hit me 5 times. 4, and one more time. Hit me. Oh. Well, that's interesting. So I haven't been killed exactly, but I'm kind of dead and he's not attacking me anymore. That's kind of what I want, but it's like, not quite, Tom. That's the answer. Not quite. So, so I could do this after. I could do this like one more attack, because what he did was he attacked me and I'm going to take damage. And again, this is something that I could do here, but let's just try that. I don't think it belongs here. I think I have to put that somewhere else, because attack is like when it's happening. Maybe I want to put that during my overlap somewhere. That's not what I want. I want to Control Save and then Control Alt F11, and let's see if that works one more time. But again, I'm not looking at my notes. I'm just doing this like off the cuff, right? So there's a little bit of trial and error. Okay, and this is fun, but I'm also wasting some of your time. So if you have to go, totally understand. So can't strike him, and he's 1, 2, 3, 4. Kill me, kill me. You can't kill me now. And I can't look. I am dead officially. So I just I haven't played the death montage yet because he hasn't done enough damage. He has to do like one extra attack. That's what I'm at. It's like kind of weird, right? That I'm in that really weird state. So it's kind of right because I'm making him like walk away. That's what he does. He kind of loses his interest here, but it doesn't belong here. So where else could it be? That I actually, at this point, I think I want to check my notes. 1 second. Just because I don't want to waste your time. I could fool around like this for a while, but here's my ICE 12 completed, and I'm just going to bring up my other Visual Studio project. Cheating. I'm cheating, my friends, instead of trying to figure it out. But again, it's just troubleshooting is what I'm doing. And I know this is happening because I've done this already. I just didn't put it into the PowerPoint because there's like so many things to put in, right? Okay. There we are. So enemy.cpp. Enemy.cpp. And I just want to make sure that I'm in the right one. I just did this, so yeah, I'm in the right one. Okay. Player detected, and where did I do it? Guys, 1 second, and I'll tell you exactly what I did here. Because I did the very similar thing here. Check that is dead. Let's just search for it. Is dead. And I want to search for the doc. 1 second, I'm just doing this off screen. Just that we're good. And did I do it? Well, players detected. And then damage. Again, it's a minor thing, but I just don't want I don't want to do this unless the control states. Initialize, move to target, roll attack. Ah, no, I did it in the right place. I did the exact same thing. So what I did is I did if it's dead, and then I did the exact same thing. But why is it not killing me? Oh, I see what I did. I put the enemy state back into patrolling, first of all. So I did that. EAS, EES patrolling. That's what I did. I did do it the right thing. I cleared the top attack timer, but I didn't stop the attack montage. So I cleared the attack timer here, and I returned. I didn't change the combat target to this. This is what I did. And I didn't even do this. I didn't have to even do all this. All I did was I said character. So I call instead of main character, I called it character. That's all I did. And I said character action state, which I have access to, is equal to, if it's equal to uh, action state dead, which is like saying if I'm alive, AS dead, that's what I did. And then I just return. And that way you don't need to change the visibility of the thing. And so then I did this. I did put this after here because this way it would do it. And I think this was my solution to the problem. Let's just do that again. Control F11, which should make it launch and update. And that should be your solution. And let's try it one more time. Sorry about the trial and error, but we have to do this properly. Of course, we ran over errors. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There we go. And then he stays dead. Yay! That's all I did. That was my trial and error. And that, my friends, is your project for today. In-class exercise 12 completed. What I want you guys to do for the last part of your to-do, right, because you have some stuff to do, I want you to remove all the debug objects or hide them. So that means things like all the visibility stuff when he's playing, the stuff around the sword, get rid of all the patrol points, like basically clean up your scene. Even when the player plays, I want you to get rid of their their debug trace and all that stuff, so you don't see any of that stuff. And then this way you have the beginnings, the trappings of a game where you can kind of check this out, and you have something that makes sense when you do this kind of thing, and it looks pretty good. Okay, there we go. Look at that. It's nice. And you've made some lower level enemies that aren't like the most effective ones, and you can walk around in your game world. When we come back next semester, we'll use this same character we've been developing in an open world where they can fight other enemies and do other really cool things. But for now, that is it for this project. We've done all we want to do, and that is it for this in-class exercise 12. Remember, next week we have our exam. Please arrive early. I recommend 10 or 15 minutes early. I will send it a note to remind everybody it's happening. But that's when it's happening next week. It's going to be during our regular hours. So you come in, please don't arrive late. If you're there 20 minutes late, you will not be able to write the exam. I don't want you guys disrupting anybody else. Again, it will be largely based on the stuff we've already done this semester. Any questions before we go for the day? Thank you for sticking around. I appreciate it. I know I went over time. No problem. Hopefully that was helpful and that was useful for you guys. And I'm hoping that it helps you with your game, because this way you have a bunch of little things to help you get going with the game that you're making right now. Okay, my friends, have a great day, and we'll see each other next week. I will put out a message to that effect shortly. All right, take care. Thanks a lot. See you later. Good luck.